Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We are continuing our discussion on Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. And in today's discussion, we'll complete the last set of verses. So we ended the previous discussion from verse 42. So we'll resume from verse 43. Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labate parvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuya samsidau kurunandana. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. So, whether the yogi falls in the initial stage or at a mature stage, the assurance from Krishna is that he will resume from that point. So, whatever state that he acquired in his previous birth, Krishna will make sure that his intelligence is such that he resumes from that point. So, samsidau means that the purity in his heart will be again revived by the buddhi samyogam, by the revival of the consciousness. Prabhupada in the purport gives the example of King Bharat, who had a very exalted life, but then he fell. And then after he fell, he took birth as a deer. And then the third birth that he took was Jat Bharat. But by the mercy of Krishna, he was quickly able to resume from where he had left off. And therefore, he was almost liberated, because King Bharat fell at a very exalted stage. So he was almost liberated when he took birth as Jat Bharat, and through the practice of Krishna consciousness in his life, he attained perfection. Okay, next verse. Verse 44. Purvabhyasena teneva rayate hayavashopi saha jigyasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So Krishna is elaborating on how does a yoga brashta, how does a failed yogi deal with in subsequent lives with the fact that he was not able to complete his process. So the previous verse indicated that he takes, depending on whether early or mature, he takes birth in the family of either a rich or a pious or one where there's practice of yoga being done, and then he resumes with intense effort. So this verse explains the reason for his intense effort, that because of the practice in his previous lives, the yogi is attracted to yoga almost against his own will. So avasho api means that he does not make a conscious effort to seek it, but driven by his past impressions, he will seek it. So one may say that, is this something that may or may not happen? But Krishna says that certainly, that without any doubt, the power of yoga to inspire the practitioner to seek it again and again is an accepted fact. So such a person will be inquisitive about yoga, inclined to practice, And Krishna glorifies that such a person is ativartate, that he is much superior to those who are seeking the seeking the material aspects, the Shabda Brahman, the Karma Kand aspects. So, by nature, he will not have faith in the ritualistic aspects of the Vedas. So, Krishna says that Shabda Brahma Tivartate. So, Shabda Brahma, at least in this context, is referring to the ritualistic practices of the Vedas. Shabda Brahma is also refers to Om, but in this context it is referring to Karma Kand. Right? And this happens automatically, even without seeking them. So this points to the overpowering impact of the past life practices. So Prabhupada says that advanced yogis are not very much attracted to the rituals of the scriptures, but they are automatically attracted to the yoga principles. Now these verses are talking about one who falls at the stage of yoga rudha, that he is in an advanced stage. Because at the earlier stages, the injunction is to follow the injunctions of the Vedas. Maybe not the Karma Kand aspect, but yet to follow the aspects of the Vedas that are relevant. But at a mature stage, the inspiration to act comes from internal purity. So they are naturally not attracted to the rituals of the scriptures. Okay, next verse. Verse 45. Prayatnad yatamanastu yogi samshuddha kilbishaha anek janma samsiddhas tato yati param gatim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So this verse is a verse of encouragement as well as caution. So the encouragement part is that if the yogi fails, then in his next birth he will resume. And after many births, he will finally reach the maturity, samsiddham. So anek janma. So anek janma means after many births. Tato yati param gati. That he will attain the ultimate destination of yoga, whichever he is seeking, whether it is Brahman, Paramatma, or the Lord. So the encouragement part is that for the yoga brashta, the fallen yogi, there is no punishment, there is only repeated opportunities. And the advancement is cumulative, based on the sincere desire. And the cautionary part is that Krishna is saying that aneka janmena, that this is a process that is not very easy to perfect. The focus over here is on sincere jiva. The focus, at least on this verse, is a mature yogi. But even then, such a person will have to practice for many births. So the process is slow and arduous. In the Bhagavatam 3rd canto, Karna Muni makes the same point. He says, Bahu janma vipakvena samyak yoga samadhina drashtam yatanta yatyaha shunyagareshu yatpadam. After many births, mature yogis, by complete trance in yoga, endeavor in secluded places to see the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, while Krishna is assuring of the Param Gatim, there is still this focus on Pratnad Yatatmana. Pratnad Yatatmana means that intense effort. Yatatmana. Prayatan means effort. Yatatmana means intense effort. Anek janma. That in many, many lives, after endeavoring very, very intensely, the person will finally get param gatim. Okay, next verse. Verse 46. Tapasvibhyo diko yogi jnanebhyopi matodikaha karmabhyascha diko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Translation. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjun, in all circumstances, be a yogi. So, in the last two verses of the chapter, Krishna is going to give a summary of the glories of Astanga Yoga. So far, Krishna has talked about various paths. And now he is kind of explaining which is the best. So, the tapasvi is the ascetic that's been described in the 4th chapter, verse 28, that one who performs austerities without atmagyan. So, one who is simply externally performing austerities. Right? So, that is tapasvi. So, Krishna says tapasvi adhika yogi jnanebhyo vipamato dika. So, who is the jnani? The jnani is the empiricist who studies the scriptures for material gains but not for atma gyan. Right? And then karma bhyascha adhiko yogi. So, the karmi over here is the person who simply performs material activities with a fruitive mentality. So, Krishna says all these are inferior to the Astanga yogi. Now, important to note here is that when Krishna is talking about the jnani, the tapasvi, he is not talking about one who is practicing nishkam karma or jnana yoga. Because essentially all these process, nishkam karma and jnana yoga, atma jnana, they are integral to Astanga yoga. So, Krishna is not trying to negate the statement he made in the beginning of the chapter, where he says ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha, where he says they are the same, and now he is saying that the yogi is superior. So, the nishkam karmis, the atmagyanis, and the Astanga yogis, they are all on the same level. But for those who are simply performing austerities externally, those who are simply pursuing knowledge for the sake of material gains, those who are performing activities for the sake of pieties, all these are inferior. Also important to note that in this list, Krishna does not include devotees, even neophyte devotees. So, Prabhupada says that the Lord has confirmed herein the superiority of yoga, but he has not mentioned that it is better than Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is full spiritual knowledge and therefore nothing can excel it. And then Prabhupada talks about why the other paths are inferior. So he says asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Right, so this is tapasvi without atmagyan. Then empiric knowledge without surrender to Supreme Lord is also imperfect. So this is the jnani who is simply mentally speculating. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. So this is karmakandi. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is Bhakti Yoga. Right? So Prabhupada is implicitly saying, so Krishna explicitly is praising Astanga Yoga, But the fact that it does not mention Bhakti Yoga in the list of things that are inferior, Prabhupada is using that to extrapolate that even higher than Astanga Yoga is Bhakti Yoga. And Prabhupada said this will be more clearly explained in the next verse. Okay, so let's go to the last verse of the chapter. Verse 47. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatinantaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides with me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So this last verse of the chapter is transitioning from all the other forms that have been described in the previous 6 chapters to Bhakti. So Krishna is introducing Bhakti Yoga, which then he will expand in the middle 6 chapters. So Krishna says, Yogi Nam api sarve sham. And there are 2 ways to understand this word. So Yogi Nam api sarve sham is the best of all the yogis. So one way to understand is that the best of all the practitioners of yoga is the one who follows Bhakti Yoga. Another way of understanding, if Baldev Vidyabhushan explains from the context of the Sanskrit construct, is that Krishna is not really saying among all the yogis the devotee is the best, because it would put the devotees in the same category of all the yogis, all the practitioners of austerity and Vedic study and Astanga Yoga. So when there is superiority, inferiority that is there in a group, then the group membership is uniform there. And Baldev Vidyabhushan says that a devotee is like a golden mountain. So while the other mountains may be high or low, the golden mountain always stands separate. So he makes the point that this should not be read as among the yogis, but it should be read that in addition to this, one who practices Bhakti Yoga should be considered to be the highest. And the verse describes a little bit about the characteristics of the devotee. That Shraddhavan means that he has firm faith in devotion to me. So Antaratmana, that his mind is completely attached to Krishna. Madgatena means exclusively to Krishna. And Bhajate Mam. Bhajate Mam means that without interruption, he is chanting the glories of Krishna through devotional process, such as hearing and thinking. So this verse is describing the mood of a devotee, and the focus is now more on the internals. That Shraddhavan with devotion, Antaratmana, that unflinching attraction, Madgatena, exclusively to Krishna, Bhajate Ma, actively performing devotional service. And who is me in this case? Me is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Bhagwan. So with so many other forms like Lord Narasimha and Lord Ram, but who is full of Satchita Nanda, who comes to Vrindavan, performs pastimes, who engages with his devotees in so many ways. Such is the object of the attraction of the devotees of Krishna. And they are superior to all kinds of tapasvis, karmis, jnanis, even the practitioners of Nishkam Karma Yoga, Atma Gyan, and Astang Yoga. Because in the previous verse, Krishna had established the superiority of Astang Yoga to the empiricist and the Karamkandi and the mental speculator and the performer of austerities. But as we had discussed over there, Krishna had considered the stage of Nishkam Karma, Atma Gyan, Gyan Yoga, and Paramatma Gyan as the same. He is not making a distinction between them because they are different levels of maturity of the same process. But here Krishna is making a distinction, saying that all these processes that we have talked about, Bhakti Yoga is superior to that. In the Bhagavatam, this is in the 6th canto, chapter 14, it said that Mukta Nam api Siddha Nam Narayana Parayana Suduralbha Prashantatma Kotishvapi Mahamune. That among many millions who are liberated and perfected in knowledge of liberation, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayan. And such a devotee is extremely rare. And we'll see the verse with a similar sentiment coming later on. So, in summation, this verse is a concise statement of Bhakti, which will be expanded in the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad-gita. So, this is the conclusion of the first section of the Bhagavad-gita, where the first chapter introduced the dialogue between Krishna and Arjun and his doubts. The 2nd, 3rd and 4th chapters talked about Nishkam Karma, or developed from Sakam to Nishkam Karma, talked about the notion of attaining Nishkam Karma. The 5th chapter talked about Jnana and Vigyan, realized knowledge. And the 6th chapter talked about Astang Yoga. But the main topic in all these 6 chapters is Karma Yoga. So whether it is Astang, whether it is Gyan, and obviously when it is Sakam or Nishkam, the focus is on execution by following the prescribed injunctions of the Vedas. And the main topic of the middle 6 chapters will be Bhakti. So with this, we will conclude our discussion of the 6th chapter. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.